Hey everyone, welcome back. Last week, a number of Republican attorneys general sent a letter to the Fortune 100 companies, threatening lawsuits if they did not immediately cease using race and diversity in their hiring processes. The attorneys general cited the recent Supreme Court decision overturning affirmative action, stating that the logic from that decision would also apply to corporate hiring procedures, and that they would be more than happy to sue these companies in order to establish that precedent. Now, this is just another example of Republicans at the state level threatening either legal or political retaliation against companies that they don't feel are sufficiently in line with Republican values. We saw a number of the same states' attorneys general threaten Target over its Pride Month collection. We had a number of Republicans at both the state and national level threaten DirecTV when it took Newsmax off the air. And of course, we have DeSantis and other Florida Republicans' ongoing feud with Disney. So what I wanted to talk about today is the potential impacts that all of these ongoing threats against businesses might have for the states making those threats. The first thing that any company does when it's threatened with a lawsuit is try and minimize its exposure. And when it comes to lawsuits from state attorneys general, the best guarantee a company has against a lawsuit is to not do business in that state. The State Attorney General of Arkansas, for example, can't sue a business that is operating only in California because Arkansas doesn't have jurisdiction in California. So, if a company can completely extract itself from a state, it can't be sued by that state. And of course, if a company leaves a state, it takes jobs away, which leads to a decrease in tax revenue and overall hurts the economy of that state. Now, of course, there's going to be some companies that can't fully extract themselves from these states. They've already invested a lot of capital into property, manufacturing facilities, storage facilities, storefronts, etc., and they don't have backup facilities that they can move into in other states readily available. So they're kind of stuck for the moment. But what they're definitely not going to do is expand their business in the states that are threatening them. And we actually already have an example of this. Eli Lilly, a pharmaceutical company out of Indiana, stated that they would no longer be expanding their operations in Indiana after it passed its strict abortion ban. They stated that they would be looking to expand in states that had more positive views of reproductive rights, as that better aligned with their business goals and would allow them to hire the workers that they were looking for. And so, companies looking at these states that are issuing them threats of lawsuits are saying, hey, it's obvious you don't want my business as you're threatening to cost me a whole bunch of money in legal fees, so while yes, there's some business that I'm going to keep doing in your state for now, I'm definitely not going to look to expand my business any further because you're obviously not friendly to my business. And that hurts the future health of the economy of these states, and eventually people are going to have to leave those states as the jobs will be elsewhere. And that, of course, is going to have a long-term negative consequences for the welfare of those states. The other way that companies can insulate themselves from these threats is to, frankly, make campaign contributions. A lot of these attorneys general are elected, and the ones that aren't are appointed by the state governor, who of course is elected. And given Citizens United, companies can spend a whole lot of money to support the political candidate of their choice. Now, I don't agree with Citizens United. I think that it's had a lot of negative impacts on our political system, but unfortunately, it is what it is, so those are the rules we're currently operating under. And Republicans shouldn't be surprised if the companies that they're threatening start contributing a lot of money to either a primary challenger or their opponent in the general election, who might be more favorable to these companies' point of view. Let's face it, it's probably cheaper for these companies to make the political contributions than to pay all of the legal fees associated with the lawsuits, even if the companies did end up winning in the end. For example, I bet that if Ron DeSantis does end up becoming the Republican nominee for president in 2024, Disney's not exactly going to be stingy in its campaign spending in order to ensure that that man never becomes president of the United States, as he didn't just threaten Disney, he actually took a number of political actions against the company. So, the mouse is not going to forget that, and I highly doubt the mouse will be merciful. While those are probably the main two things that companies are going to engage in, they also do have some other options. They could create subsidiaries to deal specifically with their business in problematic states. They could countersue, claiming that the actions taken by these attorneys general or by local state governments are political retaliation against protected First Amendment speech. Or they could engage in malicious compliance, much like what Disney is currently doing to Ron DeSantis. But at the end of the day, no matter what strategy these companies decide to employ, it's going to have a negative impact on the economies of these states. As the company is going to sit down and say, at the end of the day, we've looked at the numbers, we've looked at the risk assessment, and based on these constant threats of vague lawsuits and political retaliation, it's just not worth it to do business in your state. We're going to go look for greener, maybe bluer pastures. Think about it.